What happens when two of the world's most scrutinized women, one a royal rebel, the other a Hollywood legend, sit face to face on live television? What begins as polite conversation quickly unravels into a clash of words no one could have predicted. By the end, the cameras capture a walkout destined to dominate headlines for weeks. The View has hosted its share of tense moments, but nothing like this. Meghan Markle arrived to discuss her charitable projects. Angelina Jolie came to highlight her humanitarian work. Yet when their paths crossed, the dialogue turned personal. Fast. Meghan's sharp remarks collided with Angelina's calm but cutting truths, and the studio air seemed to spark with anticipation. Meghan entered first, radiant in a crisp white ensemble, her polished smile projecting confidence. Applause thundered, though whispers rippled beneath it. With Meghan, the baggage was unavoidable. Royal feuds, relentless press, scandals that never seemed to fade. Moments later, Angelina took her seat across the table. Draped in understated black, she carried herself with quiet authority. The audience applauded again, this time tinged with admiration and curiosity. Two of the most talked-about women in the world sharing a stage? Rare, explosive even. Whoopi Goldberg, ever the steady hand, welcomed them warmly. We are so thrilled to have both Meghan Markle and Angelina Jolie with us. Today! Meghan's polite nod and rehearsed smile contrasted with Angelina's soft thank you and folded hands. For the first 10 minutes, it was cordial enough. Meghan spoke of new initiatives, her lifestyle brand, her advocacy for mental health. Smooth, polished, a little rehearsed. Angelina's turn brought talk of refugee camps, displaced children, sustainable aid. Her voice calm, deliberate, passionate. Then Meghan struck. "I admire what Angelina has done," she said, her smile tight. "But let's be honest. Sometimes these Hollywood humanitarian trips feel more like photo shoots than real activism." The air snapped. A collective ooh rippled through the audience. All eyes turned to Angelina. She didn't flinch. If the work truly changes lives, the cameras don't matter, Meghan. It's not about the photo. It's about the results. The audience clapped lightly. Meghan's smile stayed fixed, though her eyes told another story. Of course results matter, but let's not pretend image isn't everything. Some people, her glance lingered, use that to their advantage. Sarah Haynes tried to diffuse the tension. "Ladies, isn't it fair to say there's room for different approaches? Meghan, you've brought awareness to mental health. Angelina, you've worked on the ground." Meghan cut in with a laugh. "On the ground, sure, but also on the red carpet. Let's not act like humanitarian work hasn't become fashionable." Angelina's jaw tightened. She drew a steady breath, met Meghan's eyes, and answered evenly. "Fashion doesn't push me to spend months in war zones, Meghan. It doesn't drive me to risk my safety for refugees. That work isn't for cameras. It's for people who have nothing." The tension spiked. Joy Behar leaned forward, never one to miss the storm. "Angelina, are you saying Meghan's activism is less authentic?" Angelina's lips curved into a polite smile. "Authenticity," she said evenly, "is measured by what you do when no one is watching, not by how many interviews you give about it." The studio erupted, a sharp gasp, followed by murmurs. Meghan's smile faltered just enough to betray irritation. She smoothed a strand of hair, her composure slipping for half a beat. "Well," she quipped, voice laced with sugar and venom, "not everyone needs to perform sainthood to stay relevant." The table went still. Whoopi shifted in her seat, her tone suddenly brisk. "Okay, let's take a breath here. We're not here to pit two incredible women against each other." But the damage was done. Meghan's barbs had landed, and Angelina's silence, graceful, deliberate, made them sting even sharper. The first cracks had appeared, and everyone in the studio could feel it. This wasn't going to stay polite. It was becoming personal. As the show cut to commercial, Meghan reached for her water glass, muttering something under her breath. The nearest co-host caught it. From the flicker in Angelina's eyes, it wasn't kind. Their brief glance, cold, hard, unblinking, was a promise. The real storm was still coming. When cameras rolled again, the buzz in the studio lingered. Joy Behar forced a bright laugh. "Well, ladies," she said, glancing between them, "I think we can all agree. The world needs more strong women doing strong things, right?" Angelina smiled diplomatically. "Absolutely." Meghan leaned forward, her tone dripping with faux sweetness. "Oh, I agree. Some of us use strength to inspire. Others prefer to remind us how important they are every time a camera flashes." A low ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Angelina didn't bite. Not yet. Whoopi cleared her throat. "Let's talk about impact. Angelina, your work with the UN Refugee Agency spans over 2 decades. Meghan, you've championed mental health and women's rights. What motivates each of you to keep going?" Angelina answered first, calm as ever. "The people. Families I've met, children in camps who have lost everything, but still smile. They remind me this isn't about me. It's about service." Meghan jumped in before the co-host could pivot. "Right, though I do think who tells the story matters. It's one thing to fly into a refugee zone with security and press clearance. It's another to live under relentless scrutiny every single day." Angelina turned her head, eyes locking on Meghan's. Her tone was cool, unbothered. There's a difference between being scrutinized and being challenged, and a bigger difference between advocacy and branding. Gasps swept the room. Meghan's expression didn't waver. Her half-smile practiced, her eyes glassy with controlled offense. Joy tried to soften it. "But let's be honest. Every public figure manages their image. Even you, Angelina." "True," Angelina replied, never breaking eye contact. "But I don't pretend image management is activism." Meghan leaned back, head tilting like a cat ready to pounce. "Well, I suppose some of us resonate more with modern audiences. It's called evolution. Younger generations expect openness, vulnerability, not savior complexes." For the first time, Angelina flinched, subtle but unmistakable. The corners of her mouth twitched as if calculating the cost of a reply. Still, her voice remained measured. Openness is not the same as oversharing. Vulnerability isn't monetizing trauma. The crowd stirred, a mix of gasps and low chatter. Whoopi jumped in, firm. "Okay, maybe let's bring this back to shared values." But Meghan wasn't finished. She let out a light, dismissive laugh. "Honestly, I just think it's fascinating when people who have spent their whole lives being praised for beauty and talent suddenly feel threatened by voices they don't control." The blow landed. For the first time, Angelina's composure cracked. Just slightly. Her eyes narrowed, her silence deliberate. When she finally spoke, she turned to the co-hosts instead of Meghan. "I didn't come here to compete in a personality contest," she said coolly, "or to measure myself by popularity metrics. I came to talk about displaced families, broken systems, women living under oppressive regimes. But somehow, the conversation keeps circling back to her." The audience gasped, some even laughing nervously. Meghan's expression darkened. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said, sarcasm dripping. "I forgot this was your show." Sarah Haynes jumped in, voice too quick, too bright. "I think what we're seeing here are just 2 different approaches to advocacy. And maybe that's okay. There's room for both." But Meghan pressed on. "Is it advocacy?" She smirked. "Or just a performance of humility? Some people wear their cause like a crown, others like a costume." Angelina finally leaned forward, her voice low and precise as glass. "And some people mistake attention for purpose." The audience froze. No cheers, no murmurs, just silence, cut sharp. It was the most devastating line yet. And she hadn't even raised her voice. Whoopi raised her hand, tension flickering in her eyes. "Let's pause. Let's all take a moment to breathe." But no one breathed. Not the audience, not the hosts, not the women at the table. Meghan crossed her legs tightly, adjusting her dress with icy precision. "You know," she said, voice cool as stone. "People warned me about you. They said you're territorial, that you pretend to support women, but tear them down if they shine too bright." Angelina's face went still, blank for a beat. Then she let out the faintest, most controlled laugh. "No one shines too bright for me, Meghan. But I do take issue with people who confuse the spotlight for substance." "Oh my God," Joy Behar whispered under her breath. The air dropped 10 degrees. The co-hosts exchanged desperate glances. They had lost control. As the second commercial break hit, the energy backstage was chaos. Producers scrambled, debating whether to cut the segment or ride the drama. The hosts whispered urgently, trying to plan a way to reel the show back from disaster. But when the cameras rolled again, it was clear. The gloves were off. Meghan sat rigid, arms folded, her jaw clenched beneath a smile that never touched her eyes. Angelina remained poised, but her elegance now carried steel. The soft diplomacy was gone. What remained was defiance. Joy tried again, voice thin with nerves. "All right, ladies, this is daytime television. Our viewers tuned in for wisdom, not warfare." Meghan turned sharply toward her. If they came for wisdom, maybe they should have invited someone who actually lives in the real world, not someone who just visits it for photo ops. Angelina leaned in, her voice low, unshaken. "And maybe you should learn the difference between spotlight and sacrifice." The audience gasped as one. Even Whoopi's brows shot up. Meghan's smile hardened into ice. "You think you're the only woman who's suffered?" She snapped, voice climbing. "I left an entire institution. A title, a crown, a country." Angelina cut in, razor sharp. "No, you left accountability. And ever since, you've been obsessed with controlling the narrative." The tension cracked like lightning. "You don't know anything about what I've endured." Meghan shot back. "And yet," Angelina replied, calm as steel, "you insist on reminding us." Again and again, the audience erupted. Not with laughter, not applause, but a wave of audible disbelief. The studio was no longer a talk show. It was a battleground. Meghan's nostrils flared. She turned to the panel. "You see, this is the problem with women like her. They act like they own suffering, like no one else can speak unless it fits their version of empowerment." Angelina blinked slowly. "Empowerment isn't about owning suffering. It's about using it to lift others up." She paused, her words slicing through the air. "Not turning it into a podcast series." That landed like a grenade. The audience went dead still. Sarah Haynes tried to intervene. "Maybe we should—" Meghan ignored her. "She wasn't finished. Go ahead, play the saint. But underneath it, you're just another gatekeeper. Another woman who can't stand sharing the spotlight." Angelina's voice dropped to a whisper sharper than any shout. "The spotlight is only bright to those who need it." Meghan scoffed, her voice cracking. "Oh, please." "No, Meghan." Angelina pressed on, her tone now a weapon. "I didn't come here to argue, but I won't sit by while you twist empowerment into narcissism." For the first time, Meghan faltered. Her hands trembled as she leaned into the performance, eyes darting off stage, before snapping back. "You're just another bitter actress, desperate to stay relevant by throwing stones at someone younger, louder, and more loved." Angelina didn't blink. "I'd rather be relevant for what I do," she said evenly, "than infamous for what I say." Whoopi's hand hovered near her cue cards. Joy sat frozen. Sarah finally whispered what everyone was thinking. "Maybe we need a break." But Meghan had already risen halfway, body tense, the moment teetering on collapse. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was survival. Angelina stayed still, silent, and that silence cut deeper than all of Meghan's words. The audience sat stunned, caught between awe at Angelina's restraint and disbelief at Meghan's unraveling. A producer gestured frantically off stage. Whoopi leaned toward the camera, her voice trembling with forced calm. "We'll be right back." But they wouldn't. Not really. Because when the commercial ended, the air was heavier. Meghan perched on the edge of her chair, jaw locked tight. Angelina sat with effortless poise, a woman who no longer needed to prove anything. Whoopi cleared her throat. Well, welcome back. I think we're all just trying to process. Meghan leaned into her mic, voice cutting through. Process what exactly? That a woman with a platform, a husband, and a cause still isn't allowed to speak without being branded a narcissist? Angelina didn't flinch. Joy Behar finally broke the silence. No one called you that. Meghan let out a bitter laugh. No, but that's exactly what you're all thinking, isn't it? That I hijacked this conversation. That I made it about me. Her eyes locked on Angelina. Why don't you just say it? Angelina blinked once. You already did. The crowd froze. The silence was suffocating. Even the crew behind the cameras seemed to stop breathing. Meghan's expression hardened. I came here to uplift women. She snapped. But apparently that's only acceptable if I sit here, smile quietly, and nod while Saint Angelina delivers her sermon from a marble tower. Angelina tilted her head, her voice still calm. No one asked you to be quiet. We asked you to listen. That was the breaking point. Meghan stood. Her chair screeched across the studio floor, the sound cutting the silence like a gunshot. You don't get to lecture me! She spat, her voice trembling with fury. You don't know the first thing about what I've given up. The tabloids, the royals, the machine that chewed me up and spat me out when I wouldn't play their game. Angelina's tone stayed gentle. You had a choice, Meghan. Some of us never did. That was the spark. You know what? Meghan barked. This whole thing is a joke. This show. This fake feminism. This sisterhood that's really just competition dressed up in pink. She spun toward the panel, pointing one by one. And you sat here and let it happen. You let her come for me, insult me, diminish me, hiding behind her careful whispers and tragic narratives. The co-hosts froze. Whoopi's face was stone. Joy looked away. Sarah's eyes widened, stunned. Then Angelina spoke softly but sharp as a blade. No one diminished you, Meghan. You did that yourself. The words detonated. Meghan's fists clenched. Her voice broke raw. You think you're untouchable. That your trauma is holier, more valid. That you're better because you cry in silence instead of speaking your truth. Angelina's eyes stayed forward. Maybe that's the difference. I cry when no one is watching. You cry for the world. Meghan stood rigid, her chest heaving. For a moment, the whole studio hung in suspense. Then, heels clicking like gunfire. She stormed off set. The audience gasped. No one knew whether to clap, stay silent, or follow her with their eyes. Behind the cameras, producers scrambled. A frazzled assistant hurried after Meghan, torn between stopping her or clearing the hallway. On screen, Whoopi exhaled into her mic. Well, she said dryly, that won't make the reruns. The crowd gave a nervous laugh, but the tension lingered like smoke. Angelina sat motionless, hands folded, face unreadable. Sarah leaned into her mic, her voice hushed but clear. I think we just witnessed the most explosive moment in daytime TV history. And she was right. Meghan Markle's storm off from The View would dominate headlines for weeks. Some calling it courage, others a meltdown. One truth remained undeniable. Daytime television had never seen anything like it.